You were born in medieval England, 1240 AD, a time of faith, famine, and silence. A world where beauty was a curse, and obedience meant survival. Your name would never appear in a book. Your story began in the shadow of ale and poverty. Your father loved two things, ale and escape. He had 5 daughters, and you were the second youngest, the one villagers whispered about. The most beautiful of them all, they said, but beauty didn't fill bellies. Then came the general, a man from the king's army. He noticed you at the harvest feast, his eyes heavy with interest. He told your father he wanted to marry you, but his family demanded a dowry so large it could sink a ship. Your father laughed, though there was no joy in it. The truth was, he had already sold his fields and wasted most of his money. Not on land or cattle, but on ale and the marriages of your older sisters. Then he heard a whisper that the church was paying poor families for girls to join the convent. A holy offering, they called it. That night, he kissed your forehead and said softly, "God will take care of you, love, and with this silver, I'll take care of myself." By morning, men in dark robes arrived. You screamed when they shaved your head in the village square. Your golden hair, the one thing that made you feel alive, fell in clumps at your feet. They threw a rough black habit over you. It smelled like damp stone and mold. You caught your reflection in a brass tray. The girl you once knew was gone. At the convent, you expected quiet prayers and gentle hymns. Instead, the priest shoved a stiff brush into your hands and said, "Scrub the church floors by nightfall. God sees your effort." The nave stretched endlessly before you, stone upon stone. Hour after hour, your hands blistered, your knees bled. When dawn came, he looked at your work and said, "Amateur, do better tomorrow. Wake at 4, no excuses." Sleep became a luxury you could no longer afford. At 4 in the morning, the bells rang. You were dragged to the chapel and made to kneel for 7 hours as Latin prayers droned like a curse. Your stomach twisted with hunger. Then you saw it, a small apple glowing by candlelight. You reached for it, trembling. A sharp smack burned your hand. No food. 3 days of water fasting. "Purifying yourself," said the priest. The nights were worse. You lay on bare stone, wrapped in torn curtains. The wind screamed through the cracks, and rats huddled closer to you than any human ever would. You began to wonder if this was God's plan or the priest's amusement. One evening you found a boy collapsed by the gate, a peasant barely breathing. Without thinking, you took apples from the storeroom and slipped them into his shaking hands. He looked at you with tears in his eyes and whispered, "God bless you, sister." For a brief moment you felt human again. But mercy never stayed hidden long. A senior abbess stepped from the shadows, her eyes sharp as knives. "Thief, you steal from God's house to feed vermin." You tried to explain, "He would have died." She hissed, "Better he die than you dishonor the convent." You were dragged to the high priest. He declared, 10 days without food. Let your soul starve with your body. Your heart sank until a visiting priest, dressed in shimmering robes, stepped forward. "Service to the poor is service to God. She shall be pardoned." Relief washed over you until night fell. He found you in the corridor, the same priest who defended you. His voice was soft. "You owe me," he said. You blinked. "Owe you what?" He smiled in the dark. "Your silence, your body. God forgives sins, but I forgive punishments." He begged, tried to run, but his hands were stronger. That night, your vow of chastity was stolen, not given. You lay awake afterward, staring at the cracked ceiling. You didn't cry, you didn't pray, because even God stayed silent. Weeks later, during a public mass, they dragged you to the altar. "Confess your sins," the priest thundered. You tried to speak, "But I confess." And so you confessed things you never did. Lust, pride, disobedience. The crowd gasped and crossed themselves. Then they handed you a whip. "Punish yourself for God." You obeyed. Each strike tore into your back. The villagers nodded in approval as blood darkened your habit. By the end, you could barely stand. Months passed in silence until your belly began to swell. You knew whose sin it was, but no one believed you. "Whore," the abbess spat. "You've defiled holy ground." "It wasn't my choice." You cried. "Silence," they shouted. They stripped your habit and banished you. You stumbled through the village, begging for shelter. Your father slammed the door. You failed God. You failed us. You're no daughter of mine. You slept in barns, ate from pig troughs. And when the Black Death swept through England, the nobles fled, but not you. You stayed to bury the dead. You carried plague bodies until the fever took you too. You begged for mercy. None came. When you died, they didn't pray. They threw your body onto a cart and dumped you into the sea. Nameless, forgotten, faceless. And that was your story. Born beautiful, sold for ale, chewed up by the church, abandoned by family, swallowed by the plague. So when someone tells you that the Middle Ages were full of romance and chivalry, remind them, sometimes it just sucked. And nothing sucked harder than being a forced nun.